Hey, hey, welcome back to Workday Playdate, the podcast where work feels a little less like work and a lot more like play. I am your host, Erin, keynote speaker, improv nerd, recovering perfectionist, and your guide to navigating leadership with humor, heart, and a whole lot of real talk. So this month on the show, we are diving into one of my favorite topics, time management. And today's episode is going to blow your mind wide open because we are talking about the intersection of time and technology and something I deeply care about, radical empathy, especially in places and spaces where women are historically underrepresented, like tech and AI. So whether you're in tech, you're tech curious, or you're just trying to figure out how to not cry during your next Zoom call, this conversation is for you. So I want to introduce you to today's guest, the actual definition of a powerhouse, Lareina Yee. She is a McKinsey Global Institute director, the global head of tech alliances, and a senior partner based in San Francisco. Her client work focuses on AI and technology strategy. Now, not only that, she served as McKinsey's first ever chief diversity officer, just casual. She also co-founded the massive research study Women in the Workplace back in 2015. And to date, that study has reached more than 1,000 companies and nearly 500,000 employees. And because she's apparently allergic to downtime, she co-authored a game-changing book called The Broken Rung, which explores what happens when the first step on the corporate ladder breaks beneath women's feet and how to rebuild it. Now, my peeps, I want to talk to you. Yes, you. The multitasking king or queen, folding laundry, answering emails, thinking about dinner while listening to this episode. Maybe you're mid-career and you're wondering if it's too late to pivot into tech or AI. Or maybe you're early in your journey and you're noticing that you're the only woman in the room more often than not, I should say. Or maybe you're just so done with trying to keep up with the constant evolution of the workplace and wondering, am I falling behind? I see you. And here's the truth bomb, my peeps. Women represent only 28% of the workforce in tech. And when we zoom into AI, that number drops to 15%. And if you're a Black or a Latina woman, we're talking less than 5%. This is not a gap. This is a Grand Canyon, and we can't just build a bridge over it. We've got to think about how we climb in the first place. So buckle up, y'all, because Lareina Yee is about to bring us the wisdom, the strategy, and the energy we need to lead in the future of work. Let's have our play date with Lareina Yee. Okay. Oh my gosh. Lareina, I am so excited to have you on this play date. Welcome to Workday Playdate. I'm Erin. Lareina, who are you?
I'm excited to have a Workday Playdate in the middle of the day. This is great. Thank you for inviting me. Lareina Yee, I'm from San Francisco.
Yes, but she's in Utah today. You're in Utah today.
I'm in Utah. That's right.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited to chat with you. And I can already feel, like we said, we're going to have fun. But I want to start just by tuning in a little bit and setting an intention. So this month on Workday Playdate, we're talking about time management, which is a huge thing, which I know your AI strategies can help us with. But if we were to just set an intention, knowing that's the theme of the month, this month here on the show, but also just any intention at all that you want to give, receive in this conversation, what would that intention be?
I think to fully be in the moments you're in. So I'm just fully here for the play date right now.
Oh my God, we're playing. I love it. I love a little play. See, doesn't it don't you feel like you are allowed to play when you say I'm here for the play date? Yeah. Right? It feels good. So, all right.
And we're not going to be checking our devices and multitasking. We're here.
We are here. And I love that. Be here now. So we are doing that. I want to just start by telling you, and I said this before we came onto the show, like we really haven't talked about AI on this show before, which is like, hello, Workday Playdate, it's time. Okay. It's sort of the big elephant in the room in all of our conversations with our peeps. We call our community the peeps. So when we talk to our peeps and ask, what is your biggest challenge right now? A lot of people are talking about just how to use it, how to make it appropriately used in the workplace, how to scale it, how to bring it in. What people have questions. So when I say AI, this is like a little fun game. When I say AI, what do you say? What comes to mind when I say AI?
Opportunity.
Oh, okay. Expand on that. I love that. Because there's like two types of well, actually, I was in a webinar recently about AI, and there were four types of people. I don't remember the middle two, but the top one was early adopter and then straggler. So, like, talk to me from those two perspectives of the early adopter and the straggler.
Well, so it's interesting because the sort of the doom gloomers, they're like super negative on this, and then those are like effusively optimistic. What's really interesting is we did some research that we published at the beginning of the year, and whilst there are those different segments, even the doomer gloomers were investing in their own competence on AI tools. So even though they're like, I don't like this, I think this is disruptive, I imagine a dystopian future that makes me unhappy, they were still investing in their personal skills and competence to use generative AI. And then, of course, the optimists are like, oh, and look at all the things you can do. So I think like as a baseline, it is an opportunity for everyone, no matter what your emotional set point is for it. It's also kind of a skill currency for the future. And maybe to put like a stronger piece on that for the peeps is that when you look at workforce data, let me just take an industry as an example, insurance.
Yeah.
I recently looked at the top 10 most common jobs in the United States in the insurance sector. And of those top 10 jobs, 4 of them already show between 2023 and 2025 an increase in demand for AI skills for getting a new job in that. So we're already seeing, whether we're a doomer, gloomer, or whether we're an optimist, we're already seeing it impact the skill profile that we expect in the big jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. So wild. And that makes total sense to me. I think like from my seat where I sit, I'm just going to say my own perspective on it. It is such like, I feel like it's a wonderful opportunity. It is as a mom, as like a business owner, it saves me time. It's efficient. It's a tool that I feel like if I don't use it, I'm falling behind. These are my personal perspectives on it, just to like share. And I know like we are reading a book actually on my team called Co-Intelligence. I don't know if you've read that book before.
Yeah, it's a great book.
And because we're like studying what our peeps need to know. And we, even on our small team, have varying levels of comfort with AI. So that I'm really interested in the data. I also want to talk about, you coined this phrase, experience capital.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I want you to break that down. Like, can you break it down? Like we're on a play date. You're explaining it to a 6th grader who like already knows they want to be a CEO one day. Like what does that mean?
I love that we're going to talk to 6th graders who want to be CEOs. We need more of that. I love young people who are super ambitious. So that 6th grader is getting straight A's. The 6th grader's like, I'm gunning it at school, whether it's a boy or a girl. They're like, I'm going for it. And then most likely they're going to go to college and they're going to gun for it there. They're going to be like, I'm going to get good grades. I'm going to take all the right classes. I'm going to do all the right things. That's your like education capital. And that takes you a little more than 50% to your total lifetime earnings. So the other 50% is what we call experience capital, all the things you learn on the job. And all it is to say is that the way that 6th grader is like, I am going to learn fractions, or I am going to learn algebra, and I'm going to read this hard book, and I'm going to understand it. That kind of ambition to learn, you have to have that as well in the workplace. And you have to think, just like you're like, I'm going to finish 8th grade and then I'm going to do really well in high school. I'm going to take honors chemistry. You're selecting into a series of classes and experiences that give you those academic credentials. Similarly at work, how do you think, Erin, about your career and saying, what are all the things that I can acquire to maximize my experience capital. And by the way, it's not fuzzy. It's 50% of your lifetime earnings. So it actually really matters. It really matters economically for you, as well as the joy of having an amazing job or learning and all of these softer reasons that you would do it. But we kind of like the idea that we can put a hard number in terms of its relationship to your economic earnings.
I love that. And I got to tell you, I think I don't have a master's degree. I have a bachelor's degree. And I will say that as an entrepreneur, my experience capital is everything. I'm really using nothing I've used I guess I'm using like reading and writing and like, how to do the things that I'm doing. I needed to learn those fundamentals, but I learn everything as I go. I mean, you told me 10 years ago, I'd be sitting here doing this. Don't really think I would even imagine that world being possible, but through experience capital, believing over time, seeing myself fail and getting back up and doing it again and keep going.
Erin, let's talk about that, because you couldn't have imagined 10 years ago that you'd be the entrepreneur you're now, which is amazing. But if you roll the clock back, I bet not only were you pretty hungry to get that experience capital, I bet you also made some bold moves. And people are like, what's a bold move? And this is where, I like data. It's like a data snack for our Playdate.
Okay. And we also say we used to have snacks on this show where we're short little episodes. So the peeps love data. Like we like to back it up. So give us all the data, Lareina.
High calorie data snacks.
Yes. Give me a data snack.
Yeah. So a data snack is a bold move, has an economic definition to it. It's a 20% or more skill difference between your old job and your new job. And I bet that you made 2 or 3 bold moves already. And that acquisition of experience capital have gotten you to the place you are now. And that's not something you as a 6th grader could have imagined.
Sure.
And that is amazing.
Yes.
But then that's also saying that if we want to help women or men, ambitious young people, think about it, it's not a random walk.
Right.
It may not go your expected course. You may not know exactly how it's going to go, but there are tactics. Getting your experience capital, making bold moves early and often in your career, seeking the help of others, having mentors and sponsors open the doors and windows for everything from feedback to actual professional opportunities.
I freaking love it. I freaking love it. Like, and it makes so much sense to me sitting in my seat today that literally I can look back and everything is like a little puzzle that sort of added up to the big picture. But that experience capital is such a good way to frame it, to coin it. And I want to talk about that because you have a book called The Broken Rung, where you talk about some of this first experience capital. So like your first promotion or the lack thereof sets the tone, especially for women in their careers. Mm-hmm. So if we were to say the ladder is broken, if we're missing a rung, what is your advice to, we love our men peeps, we love our they peeps, we love our peeps. But if we were to just talk to the women specifically on this show, what advice would you give them from just starting out?
I think that I would just know that historically you're not walking into a level playing field. Just even knowing that is power. And so what is that unlevel playing field? For the vast majority, so we've been doing this research for over 10 years and we incorporated a lot of it into the Broken Rung book. But that first broken rung is the odds of advancement. And we know for every 100 men who get that first promotion, such an important break in one's career, only 81 women will see those same odds of advancement. And that number's bounced around. It's gotten a little higher, a little worse. It's largely been there. By the way, I think it's just a coincidence. It's also about the same size and scale of the pay gap, but those are 2 different statistics that come from different places. But the point is, if you know that, and if you had that information, and you are an ambitious, positively ambitious woman in your career, early stage, first 5 years, 6 years, how might you change your tactics to beat the odds? And you might do things like make a bold bet. You might actually start building your sponsor network your sponsor mentor networks sooner, early and often, because you'll need some of that to help put you in line of sight. You might take a risk on yourself and take a high profile project or raise your hand for it. You might bet on your potential, not just your performance. So there are a whole bunch of things that you might do if you realize that just nose to the ground, the odds are not in your favor. And you're not saying right, wrong, or different. It is what it is. But I think it's powerful to know what you're walking into, or that the vast majority of women walk into. And if you're the exception and you get up there, by God, put your hand back and pull up the next talented person.
That is, oh my God, I love that advice. Absolutely. Absolutely. So many thoughts on that. I have a personal story, just even in my own corporate ladder trajectory.
Oh, I want to hear it. Yeah.
Yes. So I was coming out of college. I kind of did a bunch of different roles, but my first corporate job, I was working at an advertising agency, and I was one of the first hires. So I was in there right in the ground floor, and I made pennies to the dollar because I worked 75 plus hours a week.
Wow.
And was on planes. I mean, it was like a startup within a bigger company. It was a startup, but the first of its kind in the US. So I did the job, and then they hired a male to come in and,
oh, really?
Yeah, be my boss. But here's the kicker, Lareina. I was training him how to do his job with a lower title.
Well, that's very generous of you.
Right. And a lower salary. So when I think about this, like even from my own corporate experience, I've been an entrepreneur a long time. It exists, and it existed 10 plus years ago. It still exists today. So having that sort of backbone and that advice from you, I think is so crucial, because we have a ton of peeps who are starting out in their careers listening to this show. So I want to talk about just the technology.
But just to go back to your story, I think the question is, if that happens to someone today, like, what would you tell your future self? What would you tell your past self? Like, what would you advise someone to do differently?
I think I actually am pretty proud of what I did, because once I found out what was going on, I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. And so I said, I actually said, I'm leaving the company. I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to find a part-time job in the interim. And so when that happened, here's the kicker, Lareina. They came back and they said, oh, we'll bump up your salary X%, give you the title. Will you stay? And I was like, no, the damage is done. And I left. And the rest is history. But I would tell them to do the exact same thing, to advocate for themselves, to not allow, to be an advocate. And that's what I tell my own team, like, advocate for yourself. Like, we can have a conversation, advocate, like be the person that stands up for your own self. And so I look back on that, and just any people listening, if you are finding yourself in a scenario where you don't feel like you are advocating for yourself, you are the only person. Like, you are the only person who can do that for you. And like you said, if somebody reaches down and pulls you up that ladder, if they're up the ladder and they pull you up, hopefully you have a mentor, somebody who could be your advocate as well. But the biggest advocate is you, and you got to believe it in order to receive it. So,
yeah, I think that it's amazing, because what you just showed is the power of negotiation, which even in the early career stage, you have the ability to negotiate. And there are like 4 or 5 other ways you can get through that. One would be, actually, what's really interesting is that women tend to not get as much negative feedback, which I also translate as constructive feedback that helps you accelerate your career and point out your blind spots. Women have historically gotten less of that type of feedback. They get praise, but not necessarily the other side. You might open it up and say, look, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to coach this person. I get it. But I'd love your sense of, what can I be doing better or differently? I'd love to open the door for that. And I'd also love to open the door for, what are other opportunities you could see for me, given my strengths, and put them back to find something else to offer you, if not the actual job you wanted. And like, test it. But like, why wouldn't you ask that? Or then maybe they would say, actually, it would be really powerful if you went back to school, or maybe you realize you should take a lateral move and like go to another company. I remember talking to an SVP in marketing at a consumer company, and she was like, look, there are 5 of us. We're all really talented. Someone just became the CMO. I'm not going to become the CMO. And so I'm leaving. I'm leaving because I want to be a CMO. It's not going to happen in the next 5 years. I actually deeply respect the person who got the job. Nothing hostile, nothing bad.
Yep.
Right? A woman got the job. So it's not even gender issue. But she's like, look, it's time for me to explore. Maybe I go to a slightly smaller company, take a bigger role, and have a shot at being a CMO because I've really worked my tail off and I really want to give it a shot. And so I think like one thing I think is really important for young people is if something like that happens to you, first of all, the data shows you're not the only one. So it's, it's not that special. And there are all these ways that you can get around it and move forward and feeling like you have more control over the next step. Like that's your power, to your point. Like hopefully there are people helping you and they're peeps of peeps, as you call them, who like that's their passion is to actually help you succeed in the organization. But sometimes it's not 100%. We all know that.
So true. So true. And I love that the person who was like, I'm going to advocate for myself. I'm going to leave and become CMO actually did that. And then they got their dream. But you don't know until you ask. Like you literally don't know until you ask. Okay, sorry to interrupt, Joel, but I have to tell you something. If you are stuck in back-to-back meetings with no time to actually get things done, it is time to stop surviving your calendar and start owning it. I am introducing to you the newest Improve It workshop, Time Management. It's high energy. It's an improv-infused workshop that helps your team turn chaos into clarity. Now, in just 90 minutes virtually or 2 hours in person, we will help your team identify time wasters, get clear on what actually matters, master time blocking like a boss, build routines that boost productivity without burning out, and we'll do all of this through play. Now, this isn't your typical time management snooze fest. This is an interactive, actionable, and actually fun workshop for your team. Your team will leave feeling focused, empowered, and ready to make time work for them. We can set you up with time management or any one of our other 12 amazing workshops from our catalog of curriculum and build curriculum that works with your team for the year to help time work for you. So let's turn busy into balanced. Book your time management workshop today. Visit us at learntoimproveit.com to learn more. That's learntoimproveit.com. Now back to the show. I have so many things I want to talk to you about. So I got to go back to technology because I'm like, people, like I said, we haven't really talked about AI a lot on this show. So when it comes to, let's just stay on the theme of women, especially let's go to like mid-career because we've got early stage career. We have a ton of mid-career, which I think is the hardest stage, if I'm being honest, because you're managing up, you're managing down, you're like mostly like in the mid of your life. So you've got like outside factors besides up and down management in your own career. But how do they build tech confidence and the skills that they need? How do they do that without losing their minds or without like sacrificing their free time? Like if one of our peeps listening here today is like, okay, I want to get more proficient with AI. I want to know what I'm missing out on. I don't even know where to start or what time to dedicate. What would you say?
So this is the best time to do it, is what I would say. And I'm the type of person who will bring optimism. So for those who want the more dour, just, take my comment down by 20%. But the reason I say that is because we were already seeing a transformation of jobs with automation technology before ChatGPT was released. So that was already happening to the tune of 12 million occupations in the United States, many of which women were kind of high in terms of the employment number of workers in. So that was already happening. And we were going to see quite a number of shifts. With automation technology, that's everything, right? Now, what's very cool about AI is it's very, very complicated to create a large language model. Like there's clearly, you see the headlines, like $1 billion salary for someone who knows how to do this. It's a very rare specialization and talent. But the other side of it is to use it to be a user. That's for everyone. Completely democratize any language. Like Google can do over 200 languages. They can even do accents, right? So any language, any education level, because the basic skill is to be able to ask a question, have a conversation, which everyone can have. that is, so the magic, I think, of the technology is it's incredibly complicated to build it. There's a lot we have to worry about, but from a user perspective, it's super easy. So if you want to get started, you don't have to take a class. You don't need to go back to university, although some may choose to. Maybe they want to become a model designer or something like that. But you can just use it in your work and life. So, for example, and this is a bit nerdy, but like I use 2 or 3 of the models, and sometimes I test them against each other, a little competition of my AI virtual team helping me succeed. But, we're all really busy. And I remember I use them. I use like Claude, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini to help me organize my Thanksgiving shopping list. Not only my menu, what I was going to have, what I was going to vary, but then I asked it to organize it for how I'll go to the store, and it organized it by likely like aisle category so that I could just like pick all the things up in aisle 4, and then I go to aisle 5 and I get all those other things. And, and then I was like, testing a little bit. I was like, look, if I want to save 20%, any suggestions, or if I want to do some things that are simpler. So I had a conversation about planning. And I love Thanksgiving. I love holidays. I'm that type of mom and person. But it's so much. It's so much to do that with a full-time job. And having the AI, my AI team help me at 11 o'clock at night. No one else wanted to talk to me at 11 o'clock at night. The kids were asleep. They were like, I don't know. I've got apple pie on my list. The other one's like, I've got mashed potatoes on my list, but I've got the shopping, and just organizing that and saying like, how am I going to make this more special or different? And I think it was like, it's a small thing, but it's a small thing on our sort of shoulders of mental load that I got some help with. Is it earth shattering? No. Some of the applications are really practical, and they're, things you're already doing, but it was really helpful not to write down a list and just have it on my phone. And then I just go through the store, and if I were really working on budget, I hit exactly how much I wanted to spend.
So cool.
I just think, it doesn't have to be as fancy as, oh my God, how do I think of 30% of my work that could, that I could have the machine do? So there are things like that. And there's also just everyday things like, it's all about asking questions, but there are also new experiences you can have. Like one of the most amazing media arts leaders is this guy, Rafiq Adenal, and he uses generative AI to create new art experiences. And he had an exhibition at the New York MoMA, and it literally had people sitting for 20, 30 minutes on average, engaging in this generative AI art, which is really different than maybe you're experiencing a Matisse painting.
Yeah.
And that's not about knowing how to do it. It also just affects your joy, your experience in going to a museum. And so like there are all these things, and we'll have to get to it because I think people are scared about their jobs. It's a real fair human emotion. But there are all these practical ways you can become a power user in things, even just in your personal sphere.
I have so many questions coming out of this. I'm like, where do I even start?
And it's for free. Like everybody knows that, right? It's you can do a limited amount, but you can learn a lot by using all of these applications for free. And even like I use Gmail, it organizes my Gmail. It's like
so wild.
I was like, oh, that's right. So, these are my personal emails outside of work. I'm behind on 3 responses. Thank you, Gemini. It's great.
Wow. Okay. Because it's coming into my Gmail. So I'm going to try it now that you've said that.
Just turn it on. Yeah.
Just turn it on. Okay. So many questions. Let me just say, I'm a ChatGPT gal. I haven't used Gemini or Claude yet. So I need to try those. What is your favorite platform?
Well, I do like them all.
Yeah.
I'm following all of them. So I do really like all of them. They're different things. I mean, the innovation is remarkable. So I think it sort of depends what you're using them for, to be perfectly honest. But, look, we had a summer, all of our North American summer interns were gathered in San Diego about a month ago. And we asked, I did an AI segment, and we asked what they were using. And like the average person, think of these as folks in their early 20s. The average of them had like 8 to 10 different AI applications that they were using. So I don't think you need to limit yourself to one. You can use many.
Okay, she's downloading Claude and I'm downloading Gemini tonight. Okay, wait, we have a special visitor in our play date because
who's the visitor?
We have a special visitor. The peeps are kind of used to it. This is big deal. From time to time, he gets out of my husband's office and comes into mine. So we have a play date mascot right now. Big deal coming to the table. That's just a pun on my last name. But okay, so I'm going to try a variety of these not chat GPTs, of AI. I say
different AI models. Yeah.
She calls them Chatty P. She calls it Chatty P so that I can't not say Chatty P instead of Chat GPT. So that's my first question. My second question is besides your Thanksgiving, is there any crazy AI task that you've used? What's the craziest way you've used it?
I mean, I use these tools every day. So one of my favorite things, given that I do a lot of research and kind of analysis and data, is every morning and throughout the day, I'll use deep research function, which you can get on all of these, which is basically something that's been available over the last year. And deep research is amazing. So let's say I have a client who just announced their earnings. I would typically listen to the earnings and then and it's not that I have a deadline or something, but I'm always trying to just keep up. And then I'll read a couple articles. Now I can put all of that, or I can ask, any of them, whether I was using OpenAI or Google, I could say, hey, company X, Erin's amazing company who just published earnings. Can you tell me what were the core questions from the analysts? What were the results? It will search 100, 200 websites. It will say, I will be back. It will tell you when it's ready in 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes. And then you get a whole research outline. And then I'll ask it questions. And then, by the way, I might send it to my team in the office and say, hey, I was just looking at earnings and, looking at it seems like 4 or 5 things are really important. Or I might use Notebook LM, put all the information there, and you can push a little button and then out comes a podcast. And I might send it to my team and say, hey, in your morning walk or something, you can listen to this, because it's not the most urgent thing to get done, but it's always good to kind of keep up. So I'll use the deep research function. I use the Notebook LM piece, which is studying, but I think actually OpenAI has something like that now as well. I really like the deep research. If I were a scientist, if I were trying to study, if I were in pharmaceutical research for diseases, I would be using AlphaFold, which is unbelievable. If I were in visual design, and even sometimes you can use these movie making, video making type capabilities. I might actually just I do a lot in sales and marketing, commercial excellence. And so I might actually just mock out with an LLM a marketing campaign. Not that that's what's going to go live, but to say, hey, here are 4 versions of it. And I like the idea of having more choices and say, okay, these would be the different ways we could do it. By the way, I got some input from ChatGPT and it actually challenged me in certain ways. So I think of it as a team member that powers me. But interesting, similar to you, I keep myself at the center of that. And that's maybe the phrase is human in the loop, but even with agentic AI, which is where AI can complete a task, I still think of myself as the manager or orchestrator and the person who's asking the questions and going to use it for my work.
Yes. Okay. Can I ask you this is a question that comes up on my team, so I just want to ask this, and I'm so curious your answer. I think a lot of the people that we quote unquote call the stragglers of AI have questions about environmental issues with AI and how it's affecting the water consumption. Could you speak to that? And then where would you say the future of AI is going? That's a 2-part question.
Yeah. So the first question is, I think even the most optimistic on AI, not just the stragglers, absolutely need to be asking questions about the infrastructure. It is extremely expensive, right? The economics are upside down for software. Software, the more you use, the cheaper the unit cost goes, continues to go down. The more you use these models, it has a huge implication on the infrastructure costs. So that's real. And that's, probably the thing everyone notices is NVIDIA and the semiconductors, but it's a whole without totally geeking out, it's a whole infrastructure stack. And under that is like, you need data centers, AI data centers to power these models. Those data centers use an enormous amount of energy, which is why people worry about energy. And they, think about like environmental sustainability. How do we think about that? Or just think about the electricity used to power these data centers. The numbers are staggering levels of numbers. Now, I think the good news is that's very well known to the technology provider. So what's also happening is innovation to bring those costs down at all levels. And so you hear like really interesting sort of side stories. Like one side story I heard is that there was a data center being built, and it was being built near a wind farm that had been in existence a long time. Its energy was trading below market. And because they had the need, the hungry hippo need of all the energy, they actually brought it back to market prices, and it was really helpful. You hear other little anecdotal things like, as we build more data centers in the United States in different communities, it has created a scarcity of electricians. Because we need like the craft, like the physical electrician, not something on software, not something on an app. We need actual people to help with this, and there aren't enough. And so you might see micro markets of demand for jobs you wouldn't really associate with, right? I also met a company who is looking at different ways to cool these data centers, and like they get these semiconductors, they get really, really hot, like hot where it's hard to like, I think one person said it's like the equivalent of like 5 or 10, like George Foreman, like hot burners or something. Like the scale of hot is hot, right? So I don't even know how to explain it better, but it's really hot. There are different ways to use water cooling than what we've traditionally done, which could be better for the environment. So this is not all at scale. These are things we still have to learn. It's not perfect. It's very expensive. We have to ask about the environment. We have to ask about electricity. We have to ask about countries outside of the United States, how they will support all this. All of these things are important. But the cool thing is the transparency on this. Like we could go solve this.
Yeah.
These are things we all just need to solve together.
I hear you on that. And I think that with any new invention, like the invention of electricity, for example, like we had to figure out how to work with it and how to save it and how to recycle, and how, like when things from products like plastic were overloading our landfills, we had to figure out how do we recycle. I think with innovation comes innovation to finesse. And I hear that, and I appreciate that. And I think when I have my own opinion, but like, what would you say is the future of AI? Where you sit, like in the center of it with the data and the research, where do you think AI is going? Especially when it comes to the workforce, like where would you say to somebody listening today who's like, okay, Lareina, where's it going? Where are we headed?
So, what a lot of people will say, which I agree with, is what you see now is the worst version of all of it you'll ever see going forward.
Yeah.
The pace of innovation is so extreme. I mean, nothing like I've ever seen. And a lot of it, from an engineering and science perspective, it's like super geeky. It's also super fascinating.
Totally.
So we will see better versions of everything we are using going forward. We don't know how to apply it to our lives yet. How we work, how we file claims, how we assess risk, how we recruit, how we do learning. We don't really know yet. That's the exciting thing, is that is just new ground to discover. It's kind of like, I don't know if you were a big Wizard of Oz fan, like
total geek. Like, truly my favorite movie growing up. You just hit the nail on the head.
I love that movie. It's a fan favorite. You remember the scene where they were all in black and white, and then they're in Munchkinland and it all goes to color?
Yep.
So that might be a little optimistic, but there's, in some ways, it is like going from a black and white screen to a color screen using all of the AI capabilities. And maybe we only have like 5 of the colors, and we're going to get like 10 more going forward. Yes. We don't know how to completely apply it, but it's pretty magical. And we have to be safe. We have to be careful. We have to think about our privacy data. There's a lot of provisos, a lot of important things. And I don't want to speed over them or diminish how important they are. But just that moment where you see in The Wizard of Oz, the idea of going from black and white to color and how much different that looks like, that's a real moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's powerful. I mean, I think of it too with the evolution of phones, right? Like this thing I'm holding in my hand, I'm holding up my cell phone. My son is 6 and we were on vacation last week and he saw like a phone attached to the wall. And I said, "Hey buddy, when I was your age, going barefoot
me too.
to school, when I was your age, we had a house phone and that was it. And you couldn't go to dinner with your grandparents and they hand you a cell phone to entertain you. There were no phone. I was like, we didn't even have iPads. Like we had a giant computer screen that we had to sit at a desk for and dial into like an Ethernet cable and be like, you know, like, so like it's the evolution of even the lifetime of technology, whatever technology we're using at this point. It's evolving rapidly. I'm so grateful that you are here.
Can I tell you one more story though? To your son's thing, a colleague of mine, we were doing a webinar and we were talking about autonomous vehicles and like the technology on that's really cool. So essentially like in San Francisco, Waymo is like so common to see a Waymo. And so his daughter, about the same age as your son.
And can you clarify Waymo for everybody? That's a car that drives itself.
So Waymo is a car that drives itself. It's a white car and it's like prolific in San Francisco. I think it's like, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but it's something like 200,000 Waymo rides a week. Like, so imagine these white cars, there's no driver and they drive and you basically like, if you use Lyft or Uber, you basically can do an app and it picks you up and it drops you off. And it's very safe. Yeah. So these Waymos are like super popular in San Francisco. And San Francisco is kind of like, you know, the first city to have it at such a mass distribution. But it's so strange. And sometimes when people visit, they're like, "Oh, I want to ride a Waymo." I'm like, "Okay." And they take a selfie. I'm like, "Are you taking a selfie in the Waymo?" And, you know, the whole thing. Anyway, so we're on this webinar and his daughter, who's about the same age as your son, says they saw a yellow taxi cab going by. And she's like, "What's that?" And then he explained what a taxi cab is. And there was a person driving it. And she said, "Oh, Dad, that's like a Waymo with a person driving it."
Can't. I literally can't. See, and this is the generation that's going to follow. Like this is their life. Like technology is their life. It's literally like at their fingertips and it's screens. That's a whole other podcast. Like my son is so addicted.
That is its own podcast. That's its own, and that's a very serious one. We have to talk about mental health and all kinds of things. Like it's a completely different topic. But on the optimistic side, they're growing up in this just in a different sort of set of foundational expectations. It's implicit. And that means like these are digital, these are AI native, our kids. And so I think the challenge for us is like, if we were to reconceptualize what we do AI native, how would we do it? And what does that open up? And some of it might not be great. We may be like, I don't like that. And it's still my choice. I don't have to do it. Some of it, you're like, wow, I actually really prefer doing all my basic research with the deep thinking function.
Yes.
Research. That's all good. I'm liking that a lot.
Oh my gosh. You have me downloading so many things after this episode, Lareina. I'm so excited. Like I am generally thrilled we had you on the show. We'll get you back to talk about mental health and screens, especially with kids. That's the whole thing. Okay.
That's just me as a parent. I don't have the expertise, but I could definitely advise others who do, who I like try and read and learn from. But this is just all of us as realizing that our kids are growing up with so much more access to technology than we did. Yeah, it's different.
So much more access. So let me ask you this first and foremost. I am so excited we had you on this play date. This is my final question for you. How are you going to make work more playful for you today? What are you going to do?
So it's related to AI. Because I have AI, it frees up a little bit of time. And where am I going to put that time? I'm going to reinvest it in people on my team. You know, we can actually have a bigger, deeper conversation, time to ask them how they are, time to be grateful, time to say thank you, maybe time not to be late to dinner with my family. Like,
there you go.
Just feeling a little less rushed.
I love that. I love that reframe so much. And I love that it can be like a time companion. And we're talking about time management on this show this month. So what even a perfect segue into that. Everybody's going to find you. Where can they find you? Can they connect with you? All the things.
You can connect with me on LinkedIn and on McKinsey.com. All my research, it's all public. It's all there. And so if there's something there that's helpful to you, that's great. And if you're interested in the Broken Rung, you can buy it anywhere. I see it at my local bookstore, and it's also on Amazon. And certainly you could also write McKinsey and we can send you one too.
So cool to chat with you. Like, you are just a light in this world. And I feel like you were very present. The intention was felt the whole time, and I felt it too. So thank you for your presence. It was a gift, and it was such a fun play date. We'll do it again.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay, my peeps. Let's wrap up with some play work, not homework, because around here, learning should feel a little more like fun. So here's your assignment this week. You're going to build your experience capital. Choose one thing this week that adds to your toolkit. That might mean watching a free AI webinar, asking your team about a new tech initiative, or simply reading about a tool you're unfamiliar with. Small steps count, and experience compounds. You're going to reflect, step 2, on your own ladder. I want you to ask yourself, where am I on my career ladder? Am I building? Am I climbing? Or maybe even rebuilding? What's the next small move I want to make? And here's number 3, pay it forward. If this episode sparks something in you, I want you to share it with someone who needs to be reminded they're not behind. They are just getting started. So, my peeps, I want to thank Lareina for reminding us that we are capable of not just climbing the ladder, but rebuilding it for those coming up behind us, for giving us the AI and tech wisdom that we needed. You are such a force, and I'm so grateful to have had this play date with you. And to my peeps in the play date today, on the carousel, that's not at a play date, on the merry-go-round, on the swings, swinging with me. I just am so proud of you for staying curious, staying courageous, and always staying playful. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you here next week for another play date.